Ukrainian drone saturation paralyzes Moscow airspace, costs Russia $120 million overnight. Today, Russia's interior experienced one of its most disruptive overnight security episodes in recent months, driven not by a single dramatic explosion, but by the cumulative pressure of scale, coordination, and sustained operational strain. Over several hours, Ukrainian long-range drones penetrated deep into Russian airspace, forcing air defense systems to remain active across a wide geographic arc, disrupting Moscow's aviation network, and contributing to fires and shutdowns at industrial sites. Russian authorities publicly framed the night as a defensive success, yet the observable effects told a more complex story. By the end of the overnight window, some defense and aviation analysts estimated that the combined cost of interceptor missile usage, emergency response, industrial disruption, and aviation paralysis may have reached approximately $120 million. This episode was not only about drones in the sky, but about endurance, economic pressure, and what analysts describe as the exposure of systemic vulnerabilities. To understand how this night unfolded, the account must begin with the first coordinated movements after darkness settled. Today at 11 p.m, Russian air defense networks across western and central regions shifted into a heightened alert posture. Radar stations, command centers, and missile batteries began tracking multiple inbound contacts almost simultaneously. According to the Russian Ministry of Defense, fixed-wing unmanned aerial vehicles were detected approaching from several directions at once. These were not isolated reconnaissance probes. The distribution and timing suggested deliberate saturation, a method designed to keep defensive crews continuously engaged without rest. Ukrainian drones used in such operations are typically far less expensive than the surface-to-air missiles required to intercept them. Minutes later, air raid alerts expanded rapidly across several Russian regions, with officials later claiming that 11 drones were destroyed over its territory. Almost in parallel, air defense units in the Tula region reported sustained engagements, eventually claiming the destruction of 40 drones. Each engagement required radar trackings, command authorization, missile launches, and follow-up assessments, keeping personnel and equipment under constant strain while steadily consuming interceptor stocks. By 11:40 p.m, the Moscow region entered a phase of visible disruption. Russian aviation authorities acknowledged that multiple drones had been detected along approach routes leading towards the capital. Air traffic controllers initially attempted rerouting, but as alerts continued, civilian airspace safety could no longer be guaranteed. Flights were grounded in sequence, and within a short period, more than 150 departures and arrivals were cancelled or delayed. The impact was immediate and highly visible. Passengers were filmed sleeping on terminal floors, along walls, and across tables, wrapped in coats and blankets as the night wore on. What began as a defensive security measure evolved into a logistical breakdown affecting tens of thousands of travelers. At 12:15 a.m., Russian officials reported that 32 drones had been destroyed while approaching Moscow itself. An additional 40 were claimed intercepted elsewhere within the broader Moscow region. The density and persistence of targets indicated a deliberate effort to overload defensive coverage around the capital, even though there was no indication that the drones were intended to strike central urban landmarks directly. Military analysts assessed that the operational aim appeared focused on disruption and resource expenditure rather than symbolic destruction. As the night progressed, reports continued to expand geographically, reinforcing the impression of a coordinated, nationwide pressure operation. At 12:50 a.m., air defense units in the Kaluga region announced further interceptions, though officials did not specify exact numbers, instead folding them into the broader national tally. Shortly afterward, Lipetsk region authorities reported that 10 drones had been destroyed. In Yaroslavl, officials claimed 11 interceptions, while Novgorod followed with reports of 19 drones shot down. Each announcement added another layer to the same pattern: Ukrainian drones forcing Russian defenses to remain engaged across a wide arc of territory, rather than concentrating resources in a single zone. At 1:30 a.m., attention turned toward the Smolensk region. Local residents began posting videos showing flashes in the sky, followed by a distant glow near the horizon. Officials later acknowledged that 6 drones had been destroyed in the region. However, unofficial footage suggested that falling debris or partial strikes had ignited a fire at an industrial site. Among the facilities mentioned by residents was a PJSC industrial complex associated with chemical or manufacturing activity. Flames were visible from several kilometers away, though Russian authorities did not immediately confirm the extent of damage or whether production had been disrupted. By 2:10 a.m., similar reports emerged from the Kursk and Oryol regions, where officials claimed that 5 drones had been destroyed in each. In the Voronezh region, 4 interceptions were announced, while near Ryazan, 2 drones were reportedly neutralized. When combined with earlier claims, these figures supported the impression of a sustained, multi-vector operation rather than a localized or symbolic strike. At 3 a.m., the Russian Ministry of Defense issued a consolidated overnight statement. According to the ministry, air defense systems had intercepted and destroyed 287 fixed-wing unmanned aerial vehicles between 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. The figure was presented as evidence of defensive effectiveness and control. Yet the operational cost of maintaining continuous interception across so many regions told another story. Each interception required radar operation, command coordination, interceptor missiles, and emergency response units on standby, all contributing to mounting financial and logistical strain. Midway through the night, civilian footage circulating on Russian social media added a human dimension to the events. Residents in affected regions could be heard reacting in real time to explosions and aerial interceptions. In one widely shared video filmed from a residential area near an industrial zone, a glowing fire burned beyond tree lines. Voices expressed confusion over what had been hit, speculating whether a factory, depot, or industrial facility was on fire. The language was raw and unfiltered, reflecting shock rather than organized panic. But the message was unmistakable. Despite official assurances, something on the ground had been affected. At approximately 4:20 a.m., additional videos surfaced showing contrails and lingering smoke trails across the night sky, visual evidence of air defense missiles detonating at altitude. These images highlighted another aspect of the operation often overlooked in official summaries. Even when drones are intercepted, debris can fall over populated areas, power lines can be damaged, and emergency services must respond. Temporary power disruptions, localized evacuations, and precautionary shutdowns added to the cumulative strain imposed during the night. By dawn, the aviation consequences became fully visible. Moscow's major airports remained in partial shutdown, with flight schedules heavily disrupted. Delays cascaded into international routes, affecting crew rotations, aircraft positioning, and onward connections. Airline losses from cancellations, fuel dumping, crew overtime, passenger accommodations, and logistical recovery added significantly to the overall financial impact. When combined with the cost of interceptor missiles and the temporary shutdown or damage assessment at least one industrial facility, analysts estimated the total losses from the night at approximately $120 million. This figure did not reflect a single catastrophic strike, but rather the accumulation of forced expenditures and operational paralysis across multiple sectors. Strategically, the Ukrainian objective appeared consistent with previous long-range drone campaigns. Rather than attempting to breach the most heavily defended symbolic targets, the focus remained on forcing Russia to expend resources, expose defensive patterns, and disrupt routine economic and logistical activity. Each drone, relatively inexpensive to produce and deploy, compelled the use of significantly more costly defensive systems. Over time, analysts note that this imbalance tends to favor the side applying sustained pressure. Russian officials continued to emphasize that all drones had been intercepted, framing the operation as a defensive success. However, the fires reported at industrial sites, the visible chaos at airports, and the nationwide scope of alerts complicated that narrative. Even without confirmed large-scale destruction, the operation achieved measurable effects by stretching defenses, disrupting civilian life, and imposing financial costs. By 6:30 a.m., emergency crews in multiple regions were still active. Firefighters worked at industrial locations where burning debris had ignited secondary fires. Law enforcement secured perimeters, while investigators began assessing damage and tracing debris paths. In Moscow's airports, passengers waited for updates, many having spent the night on terminal floors. For ordinary civilians, the psychological distance from the war narrowed perceptibly as the conflict's effects became part of daily life. At 7 a.m., Russian authorities marked the official end of the overnight reporting window. The drone count was finalized, regional summaries were issued, and public messaging shifted toward reassurance and restoration of normal operations. Yet the broader implications remained unresolved. Ukraine had demonstrated the ability to coordinate long-range drone operations across a vast area, compelling Russia to respond everywhere at once, rather than concentrating its defenses. From an operational perspective, defense analysts noted that the night highlighted the limits of even dense air defense networks when confronted with saturation tactics. No single interception failure defined the outcome, but the system as a whole was stretched across time, space, and cost. For Ukraine, the operation reinforced the value of persistence, scale, and economic asymmetry. For Russia, it underscored the growing expense of maintaining comprehensive defensive coverage. As the morning advanced, international observers analyzed available footage, official statements, and civilian accounts. Their conclusions converged on a consistent assessment, according to publicly available analyses. Ukraine had imposed costs, disrupted routines, and demonstrated sustained reach. Russia, despite asserting interception success, absorbed financial losses estimated at $120 million and revealed continued vulnerability to coordinated drone pressure. The night ended not with a decisive explosion or a dramatic collapse, but with grounded aircraft, burning industrial sites, exhausted air defense crews, and a clear signal about the evolving nature of the conflict. Whether Russia can adapt quickly enough to reduce the impact of such operations, or whether nights like this will become an increasingly regular feature of the war, remains an open question. Thanks for watching, and subscribe for more.